why are you telling me that? We have other cases. We have another case. The Gemara said that you get 48 blows of the trumpet. According to Rav Acha, who says that every Musaf gets 9 blows of the trumpet. So if Rosh Hashanah comes down on Shabbat, so you have 3 extra Musafim. Because of Rosh Hashanah comes down on Shabbat, you have the extra Korban in honor of Rosh Hashanah, extra Korbanot in honor of Rosh Chodesh, and extra Korbanot in honor of Shabbat. So according to the math, for those extra Korbanot, you should have 9 blows of the trumpet for each of those extra Korbanot. So you have 9 times 3 is 27. And every day you get 21. Every day there's 21, so you got 48. So the Gemara wants to know, why didn't you list? Why don't you say the case of Rosh Hashanah that comes down on Shabbat? Why talk about the case during the holiday of Sukkot? So the Gemara said that we had left over a second case. The Gemara said, and then eventually the Gemara asked the question, what about Erev Pesach that comes out on Shabbat? Erev Pesach that comes out on Shabbat, the Gemara says, not only you should have more than 48, because Erev Pesach comes out on Shabbat, we said every day gets 21. An average day gets 21 blows of the trumpet. Shabbat gets an extra, because Shabbat has extra Korban Musaf, get an extra 9 for Shabbat. Now you got 30. So every Shabbat starts off with 30. But now, if the Shabbat happens to be Erev Pesach, that night, Saturday night, is going to be Pesach. So now they're going to be in the afternoon of Shabbat. They're going to be busy slaughtering the Korban Pesach. And what do they do when they slaughter the Korban Pesach? They sing the Hallel. There's Hallel, and when there's Hallel, there's the trumpet, as David is showing us, and there's the trumpets. So now, and what was the minimum amount of blows of the trumpets during the Hallel, that was the many Hallels that were recited in honor of the slaughtering of the Korban Pesach? So the Gemara said there was a dispute between the Rabbanan and Rabbi Yehuda whether you had 21 blows of the trumpets during that time, depending how fast they were able to slaughter all the korbanot to finish them off. Did they first have to finish all? Did they have to do 3 sets of Hallel for each group? Each Hallel gets 3 blows. So therefore, group 1 they got 3 Hallels. The Jewish community came in. The first group came in. They got 3 Hallels. So they got 9. The first group got 9. The second group, again, they got 3 Hallels. But the second group was in there. It took a lot of time to slaughter all those korbanot. So they sang the Hallel and they got another 9. So that's 18. And then the question is, when the third group of Jews came in, how many Jews came in that how far in the Hallel did they get before they already finished slaughtering all the korbanot for the people? And that's a dispute. How far did they get? And based on how far did they get is whether they got another 9 blows or whether they got another they only got another 3 blows. So, but the bottom line is, you have either another Erev Pesach that comes on a Shabbat. If today would be Shabbat and Erev Pesach, this afternoon they would get a minimum of 21 blows of the trumpet in honor of the slaughtering of the Korban Pesach, which was accompanied by the Hallel. So now you have 21 plus 30, because you start off on Shabbat. Is it clear, Matt? Now you got 51, or you got 57, according to the other opinion. It says on Erev Pesach you got 27 on the deal. So now they're going to know, why don't you list that case, which is a much better case? It's not a tie. It's not tying the record for the most home runs. It is actually the new record of 51 or 57. Yeah. The Gemara said that we don't want to list something that happens once in a while. Erev Pesach that comes out on Shabbat. So how often does it come out? It's not a standard, every year standard. We want to list something in the Mishnah that the most amount of trumpet sounds on something that happens every year. Something happens all the time, once every year. But something that happens once every 5 years, something, whatever it is, whatever the amount of time it comes out, that we're not listing. So the Gemara challenged that, because the Gemara said, what about, so what is the case of the Mishnah list? Here's the case of Sukkot. What was the case of Sukkot? The case of Sukkot was, let's say, Chol Hamoed Sukkot on a Friday. Let's say we're in the holiday of Sukkot on a Friday. So Friday of Chol Hamoed Sukkot, you get that's the case of the Mishnah. You seemingly you got 48 on the deal. How did you get 48 Chol Hamoed Sukkot? Because Sukkot there's a Musaf on Sukkah. So you're gonna give an extra 9 for the Musaf, right? So you start off with 21, and you get an extra 9 on the deal. Now you're up to 30. Then, because of the ceremony of throwing the water that took place, you got another 12 on the deal. Because it says 42.
Sure.
And Erev Shabbat, and on Friday, in honor of the Shabbat and getting the people to stop doing work and to announce to the people, you got another 6. So you got another, now you're up to 48. So the Gemara says, but every year you didn't get that 48. Why not on Erev Shabbat? Because Erev Shabbat, what happened if Erev Shabbat was the first day of the holiday? Let's say the first day of Sukkot was on a Friday, right? Because the case of the Mishnah is Erev Shabbat of Sukkot. You got 48. But it's not true every year. The Gemara's question is, every year you don't get 48 on Erev Shabbat of Sukkot. Why? Because what about if Erev Shabbat of Sukkot is the first day of the holiday? Right? Sukkot, we have 7 options. You have 7 days of Sukkot. And there's only one, on a Torah level, there's one day of holiday of the first 7 days of Sukkot. Day 8 is a new holiday called Shmini Atzeret. Day 1 is the only day of the holiday. But if day 1 comes out on Friday, the first day of the holiday comes out Friday, you're not going to get the 12 blows of the. They wouldn't blow and on Shabbat those 12 blows for honor of what's it called? Honor of the Simchat Beit of the blowing. They didn't have that Simchat Beit Shewave with the music and all that stuff. They didn't play the music on Shabbat, on Yom Tov. They didn't play it on Shabbat. They didn't play the music on Yom Tov. So if they didn't do that, so therefore you don't have every year on a Friday of Sukkot 48 blows. Because the year that Sukkot, the Friday of the Sukkah holiday happens to be a Yom Tov, was the first day of Yom Tov. You don't get 48. You're missing 12. You got 36 on the deal. That was the Gemara's question that we had yesterday. So now the Gemara addresses that. The last 2 lines of the page of 54b1. The Gemara says an amazing thing. Ki makleinan Yom Tov Rishon be'erev Shabbat. If Yom Tov Rishon comes out, if the calendar would have that, based on the calendar, it's projected that the first day of the holiday of Sukkot will come out on a Friday, the rabbis would make sure that it will not happen. How do you like that? The rabbis have a certain control of the calendar. That means Hashem gave it, it just shows you the power of the rabbis, that the Torah entrusted the rabbis, that they are the ones who are going to declare when is Rosh Chodesh, right? Rosh Chodesh, every Jew, the month could have 29 days, and day 30 is Rosh Chodesh. Or the month could have 30 days, and day 31 is Rosh Chodesh. That's how the Jewish months go. And therefore, the rabbis are the ones who are going to determine when to proclaim. Based on their announcement is when it becomes Rosh Chodesh. This is a time, now they already set up a calendar, but before they had set up the calendar, your witnesses would come, right? In the Masechta Rosh Hashanah, how their witnesses would come, right, Mr. Haber, and they would check the witnesses out to make sure the witnesses are not pulling their leg, not creating a certain story, and they would go ahead and check them out. And then if they the witnesses say we saw the moon, and they have a sighting of the moon, saw it, and they would ask them certain questions to make sure you saw a moon, not that you saw something else. And then if afterwards then Bezin would say Mekudash, because they would sanctify the month. But let's say if the Bezin had a reason why not to make that month that day Rosh Chodesh, they wanted to extend the month and make it, they would not, even if witnesses would come, they would not accept them. They would say, come back tomorrow. And why would the rabbis do that? What do you mean? It's not The first day of the month was cited today, and yet the rabbis are going to make it Rosh Chodesh the next day, because if there's a pressing circumstance, and what will be one of the pressing circumstances? If you see the way as you know, when does Yom Kippur come out? Yom Kippur comes out when is Yom Kippur? The 10th day of Tishrei. All right, Simon? 10th day of Tishrei. If the rabbis would not move around the calendar and accept the witnesses in a certain case, that if Yom Kippur would come out on a Sunday, the rabbis will not want Yom Kippur to come out on a Sunday. We can't have Yom Kippur come out on a Sunday. Why would the rabbis want the Yom Kippur to come out on a Sunday? Because if Yom Kippur comes out on a Sunday, then you have Shabbat followed by Yom Kippur. So what's wrong Shabbat followed by Yom Kippur?
No, alhamdulillah.
One reason is you want to say something, Ralph, or not?
No, I was just reading ahead. There's no Havdalah on Erev on Shabbat.
Right. But we're going to see there's something more that was compelling them. What was compelling them is if a person passed away on Shabbat, so then you can't bury on Shabbat, then they can't bury on Yom Kippur. So the body would stay for 2 days, and the rabbis don't want that. It's not respectful for the body. So therefore, in order not, you shouldn't have 2 days. You should know on Yom Tov, there's laws on Yom Tov, not on Shabbat. On Yom Tov, of having a Gentile do the burial. There's certain laws today in America. There's refrigeration, so therefore we don't generally do burials. I mean, there's different communities. I think could be in the Hasidic community. They might do certain type of burials on Yom Tov. Have a Gentile do the digging on certain things, but today with refrigeration, it's not disrespectful for the body. So therefore, many don't do that. But Yom Kippur and Shabbat, there's no allowance of doing burial, even through a Gentile. So therefore, in order to ensure that wouldn't happen, that was the reason. That's one of the reasons that is given. There's another reason that's given, that any vegetables that a person would prepare to be eaten after Yom Kippur, and let's say if you pick the vegetables 2 days before, if Yom Kippur comes out on a Sunday, you would have to, in Shabbat, so you would have to pick the vegetables on Friday. Now you're going to eat what you picked on Friday and Sunday night. Remember, it's not like today we have refrigeration and all those things. Those vegetables would wither, and out of concern for the people that they should be able to eat properly after the fast, that's another reason that's given where the rabbis would make sure that Yom Kippur will not come out on a Sunday. Now, being that, want to say something? Now, being that, right. So we'll see that it should be the same problem. It should be the same problem. Friday should be the same problem. If it comes out after there's 2 days, you can't have burial. But so therefore, if Yom Kippur can't come out on a Sunday, the first day of the holiday of Sukkot is the 15th of Tishrei. So 15th, now if Yom Kippur would come out on a Sunday, would the 15th be a Friday only if Yom Kippur comes out on a Sunday? But being that Yom Kippur can't come out on a Sunday, so the first day of the holiday is never on a Friday. Based on that, if it's not on a Friday, so therefore you'll never have the scenario that you'll have the 51. It's every year it will be constant. Every year it will be constant that a Sukkot, that the Friday of Sukkot, you will have 48 blasts of the trumpets. Because every Friday of Sukkot that will come out, not be the first day of Sukkot, it will either be day 2, whatever between day 2 and day 7, and day 2 and day 7 is Chol Hamoed Sukkot, right? On the Torah level, there's only 1 day of the holiday of Sukkot, the 7-day holiday. So being it's day 2 to day 7, which is not the holiday, which is not Yom Tov, so therefore you will get the 48 because you're going to get those 12 blasts for the water ceremony, for the Simchat Beit HaShoeva, the Shaftem Mayim B'Sason, you will draw the water with great simcha. Therefore, you got 48 every year. Therefore, the Tan of the Mishnah wants to tell us a case that's standard that applies every year. Yes, Max.
Okay, so it's interesting. Like most of the time, when I think about like rabbis making things a little like what you're saying about the calendar, it was based on sensitivity to people, so that if someone passed away, it was.
I'm going to talk a little louder. So Ralph wants to hear you.
Oh,
Yeah.
If someone uh, if someone passed away, the idea is that we're being sensitive to them, as like the rabbinic tradition, to make it a little bit. Good morning, Boker Tov, Ralph. Good to see you. So the whole situation was to increase sensitivity toward the people, and also I think about like when Kohanim are trying to diagnose tzara'at. Sometimes you see something, but you choose to look the other way, or like come back after the Shabbat.
Right. That's the Torah law, that the rabbis will not look if a guy is a chatan during the 7 days he just got married, and he comes up with he has a spot on his body. They will not look at it. They say, wait till you come back after the 7 days.
And so similarly, when the two ADM come back and like they saw the moon, they choose to not look at that.
They're given the power. They give, meaning it's not the Torah entrusted them, and the Torah wants them to
be the decider.
Right. There is a pasuk that says, that teaches us that it's the kiddush. This is a mitzvah that's given to the rabbis, and Hashem wants the rabbis to do what they feel fit.
And I trust the rabbis of old and nowadays, but what if like I don't know if it was Rabban Gamliel II or one of those rabbis back in the day who kind of fixed the calendar as the current
Hillel, I think was one.
Like what if there was a miscalculation or something?
So obviously he did a very good job, and he made sure that all the issues that the concerns that we have, he took that all into consideration, and he made it accordingly that it should work, should have these problems, whatever the concerns that they had.
And if it was, say, before Hillel fixed the calendar, and there was a community in somewhere in the Babylonian diaspora, wherever it may have been, and one rabbi like miscalculated it, or they didn't have the proper Rosh Chodesh, then that whole community would be.
It'll be a big problem. But remember, but again, it was in Eretz Yisrael. That's in the time of the Mikdash, they were the ones that really set the count. They pulled out when it was Rosh Chodesh. So, being they were the ones, the diaspora had to figure out when did they call it in Eretz Yisrael, and that's how we have the 2 days of the holiday, because we didn't know when the diaspora, when did the people in Israel, meaning when it came the holiday of Shavuot, and it came the holiday of Sukkot. By the time Shavuot came around, Sukkot in Israel, the whole Israel knew when they sanctified the new moon. But in America, not America, but other places in the world, in Iran and Iraq, other places outside of Israel, the word did not yet get to them necessarily. Right. And therefore, they had to keep 2 days. That's how the whole 2 days of the holiday came to be, because that was for the diaspora who did not hear when they sanctified the new moon. So therefore, they weren't sure. When did they announce Rosh Chodesh? Did they announce Rosh Chodesh on day 30 of the month? They announced Rosh Chodesh on day 31 of the month. In Israel itself, there's 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, because in Israel itself, Rosh Hashanah comes out on the first of the month. So in Israel, you got to get the word out that same day. So a lot of Israel was not able to hear it. You can't get into Tel Aviv, but at Brat, you can't reach these places on the first day of the same day. So therefore, they kept 2 days of the holiday.
And because now we know, I guess specifically for Sukkot, that it is like in America or wherever that actually, we know that in Israel, one day, we have the exact atomic clocks, everything down to like millisecond. I guess why has there not been a relaxation?
Right. So the Gemara discusses. The Gemara says the keeping the minhag, the keeping what they did for many years, and we're keeping that.
Even
That's-
if they're like the masses, like to be as sensitive to the Klal Yisrael, if the majority of Klal Yisrael living in the diaspora say wishes to. I'm not suggesting that there would be an overturn, but if the majority of people wish to keep one day, for example, why do the rabbis? I'm not.
Right, because the rabbis are not going to say, because what the people might want a lot. People might want to drive to shul on Shabbat too. You know what I'm saying? But the people might want a lot of things, but it doesn't mean that it's a necessity. The rabbis felt that we want to keep that minhag. They wanted. Now they had reasons in the time of the Gemara, maybe because they were afraid they would forget to get the calendar. There were issues that they were afraid that they had. Even if we don't have the concerns today, but to overturn, we have to overturn the enactment of an earlier court.
Previous generation.
It's very difficult. You need to have to be better, greater than them in number and wisdom. But I want to say about this point, I want to say that really it's a great thing for us here in the diaspora that we have 2 days of Yom Tov. And I think that the fact that many people in the Jewish community want that there should be 1 day of Yom Tov, I think they're missing the boat. They're going to say missing the airplane, not missing the boat, right? They're missing the boat. Why are they missing the boat? Because they're not appreciating the fact that there could be so many people. If you would take a survey, and many people will say we want 1 day of Yom Tov, right? If the point is, if the point is that they state that, if the point is they say we want 1 day of Yom Tov, because we want to be just exactly like Israel, because of our love for Israel, and we want to just all be like one in that aspect, then maybe it's coming from the right place. But if the people are saying we want 1 day of holiday because 2 days is very hard, that's a mistake. That's the issue. That's my problem. Where is it coming from? David, you hear what I'm saying? Said that. Right. So to say this, right? So does a person say, you know what? What's the person's attitude supposed to be? It's beautiful. We got 2 Seder's. We have an advantage here in America. That's to be the mindset. We have 2 days of the holiday, not 1 day of the holiday. Who knows? Who knows? Do you know what blessing it brings to the people of the diaspora that they have 2 days of Yom Tov? That they keep 2 days of Yom Tov. They go to synagogue. They spend so many hours in the synagogue with 2 days of Yom Tov. And they're supposed to be, like Simon, learning those 2 days, spending a lot of time at the classes. Then extra 1 less day going. A lot of people go to office on Chol Hamoed, right? A lot of people go to office. But in the diaspora, they don't go to the office on Chol Hamoed. I'm sorry, on the 2nd day of Yom Tov, because it's not Chol Hamoed for them. Do you know what kind of merit it is for the people in the diaspora? Who knows about the blessings that they get in the diaspora? Who knows if it's connected to the extra day of Yom Tov? Do we know? Hashem doesn't tell us how he gives out his blessings, the financial blessings that come to people. Who knows? But what we do know is we here in the diaspora, we keep extra holy days that they don't keep in Israel. That should be the mindset. What do you say to that, Max? But we got to educate the masses. The problem is I don't think the masses understand that enough, But I think, I think it's also a lot of people when they complain and they don't appreciate. Yes.
Generation, like the first generations deal with the technological advancement, but they had the advancement at some point. It wasn't needed anymore, but they kept it up.
Right, they had the
From our perspective, maybe from their perspective, they could have gotten rid of it, but we definitely can't. After
that time.
Yeah, if there's Shulchan Aruch, Rambam all kept it,
Right.
and they didn't need to.
Right.
How do we dispute that part?
Right. But again, right, exactly. But again, my issue is where are people coming from? What's their angle? What's their mindset? Now Moshe Feinstein has a beautiful tshuva, beautiful letter. He was asked by Rabbi Kellerman who wanted to know what is the Orthodox Jewish opinion on the feminist movement. The feminist movement, big with the, it's big. He was asked this question, I think, in the 70s. So Moshe Feinstein says amazingly in that letter. He says, first he says, women are not less holy than men. The Torah says, Kedoshim to you should be holy. And who was there? Rashi says, Koladat B'nai Yisrael, all of Israel there, the men, the women were there too. The instruction to be holy was given to the women also. And many mitzvot, most, there's some exceptions, most mitzvot that even if the mitzvah that women are exempt from, we encourage them to do. They get a mitzvah. They might not be obligated. They might not get the same level of reward because they're not obligated, but we encourage them. And if you're Ashkenaz, they'll even say a bracha on those mitzvot. For instance, lulav. An Ashkenaz woman will say a bracha on the lulav. She has no obligation. A Sephardi women, it would seem most would say they would not say a bracha on it because they're not obligated. But they could take it. They could take their lulav sitting in a sukkah. We encourage the women to sit in a sukkah. They don't have to sit in a sukkah, right? But if the women want to do the mitzvah, it's a beautiful thing. But the problem, he says, with this movement is where are they coming from? Right, David? What's the angle with this movement? They want to say that they're obligated in mitzvot just like the men. That's what the feminist movement wants to say, equality and obligation. And he says that is a distortion of the truth. Because they're not obligated in everything the same way men are obligated. They have exemptions. They're exempt for certain mitzvot, certain time-bound mitzvot. So that's the problem. Where are they coming from? You want to do the mitzvah. They want to put on tefillin. They want to put on a talit. Why do you want to put on tefillin? Is it because you're so dedicated to Torah and mitzvot that you want to put on the tefillin or the talit? So then we could discuss why you shouldn't. But is that where they're coming from? Well, they're coming from, they want to say, we're not different. We're obligated just like you. You're no different in war. It's coming from the wrong place. So a lot of times we have to see how to recognize where things are coming from. Okay, so back to the Gemara. So the Gemara says, we are now on 54b2. My timer. What is the reason why, the top of the page, what is the reason why we will postpone? The rabbis will make sure not to allow Friday of Sukkot to be the first day of the holiday. We will not allow, the rabbis not allow Friday of Sukkot, the first day of Sukkot to be on a Friday, because Kivan Diikla Yom Tov Rishon Shachag Liat Be'erev Shabbat. If the first day of Sukkot, the 15th of Sukkot, remember, 15th is Tishrei, is the first day of Sukkot. If it will come out on a Friday, so Yom Kippurim Eimatafi. When would Yom Kippur come out? On Sunday. If 15th is Friday, the 10th is Sunday. So then, I'm counting backwards, but I'm saying, but what's the issue? Because we don't want Yom Kippur, we said before, that, what do you mean it's backwards?
Why are you worried about what's coming on the 15th? You could start by saying we don't allow Yom Kippur to be on a Sunday.
Right, that's what the Gemara is saying, but the reason why the Gemara is picking up the starting point is Friday of Sukkot. But the Gemara's question was, what about if the Friday of Sukkot comes out, the first day comes out on the subject that we're discussing is Friday the 15th comes out on a Friday. No, because the Gemara had asked. The Gemara's question was, I have a case that the first day of Sukkot comes out on a Friday, and therefore you're going to go ahead and you're not going to get the 48 blasts on that day. So the Gemara says, if that would happen, that's how the Gemara is addressing it. If that would happen, then Yom Kippur will be on a Sunday, and we can't allow that to happen. We can't we don't allow them to on a Sunday. Right, right. So, but Gemara has a right to talk this way because you suggested that Friday was the 15th. So the Gemara says, no, if Friday's the 15th, then what does it mean? Sunday's the 10th, and that can't be. So the Gemara says, do we actually, and you're telling me that you push off, you make sure that Yom Kippur doesn't come out on a Sunday. The Gemara says, is that really so? I have a Breita, and the Breita, or not only Breita, we have a Mishnah. We have a Mishnah that seems to indicate otherwise. Midachinale, we have Hatnan, we learned in the Mishnah Masechta Shabbat, Chelvei Shabbat. If let's say you had korbanot, offerings, that you started the processing, you slaughtered the animal, you sprinkled the blood on the mizbeach, but you still did not yet, the fats of the korban that needed to be consumed on the altar were not yet consumed on the altar on the Shabbat. And the next day, or that night, is Yom Kippur. So the first opinion said, Krevim b'Yom Kippurim, we bring it on Yom Kippur. So that means to say that the fats of Shabbat could be brought to Sunday. So we see that it could be brought on Sunday, and we see that Yom Kippur came out on a Sunday. So you're telling me that Yom Kippur doesn't come out on a Sunday. We see that it does come out on a Sunday, but you brought the fats that were left over from Shabbat on Sunday. And furthermore, Amar Rav Zera, when I learned Torah by Rav in Bavel, before I went up to the Holy Land, as you know, there was a constant flow of people from Bavel, from Babylon, that went to the Holy Land, and there was a constant rabbis that went from the Holy Land to learn in Bavel. There was it's like we have America and Israel today. They had Bavel, Iraq, and but Babylon and Israel, constantly scholars going from one place to the other. And Havi Omri, I would say, Hodetanya. That which we learned in the Breita, that the sixth kiyot of Erev Shabbat, we said on a Friday, we said we would blow 6 blows of the trumpet on a Friday. We said, why do we blow we said to get the people to stop working. Erev Shabbat, the people stop, it's time to remind the people to stop to work, Shabbat is coming. Yom Kippur, Shechal Liot Erev Shabbat, what about if Yom Kippur came out on a Friday? If Kippur comes out on a Friday, we're not going to blow those 6 blows. Now, you understand why you're not going to blow the first 3 blows, because the first 3 were about telling the people in the field to stop working, telling the store owners and the people to stop being involved with your food. It's Yom Kippur. If Yom Kippur came out on a Friday, you're not working on Friday. So what are you blowing Friday afternoon? You're not working. And also to tell the people that Shabbat has arrived, the other 3 blows, obviously to tell them, but Yom Kippur already has arrived already. So they didn't, to separate between holy and non-holy, meaning the second, third blast of the Havdil ben Kodesh L'chol, because Shabbat is here, it's already been holy the whole day of Yom Kippur, which goes to Kodesh. So therefore, he says, Yom Kippur shechal liot erev Shabbat lo hayatokin. You don't blow the shofar, you don't go the trumpets, you don't get those 6 blasts on Friday of Yom Kippur. And b'motzei Shabbat, and when Yom Kippur came out on a Saturday night, lo hoya mavdilin. They did not say Havdalah. They did not say Havdalah on a cup of wine. Why did they say Hamavdil ben Kodesh to Kodesh? Because When do you go ahead and say Havdalah? When you're going from a day from that's holy, from a holy day to a less holy day. Even we go from Shabbat to Yom Tov, we go ahead and the holiness of Yom Tov does not have the same level of holiness of Shabbat. Shabbat is even holier. There are certain things that we can't do on Shabbat that we could do on Yom Tov. Certain food preparations. So therefore, we go ahead and we'll say Havdalah on if Yom Tov is Saturday night. That's why we have Yayin, Kiddush, Ner, Havdalah, Zman, whatever. We have a lot of things going on, and when Saturday night is Yom Tov. But here, we do the Kiddush and the Havdalah together, right? It's on the one cup of wine. But over here, Yom Kippur, regarding all laws of work, they're exactly the same prohibitions. Maybe the punishment of Yom Kippur is not the same level. Yom Kippur is karet, Shabbat is skila, one is stoning, one is getting cut off in the next world, maybe dying before 60, whatever. But in regarding malacha, they're both exactly the same. So therefore, you're not going to say Havdalah. Havdalah is a separation between this and that, which represents something different, practical differences. But there's no practical difference here. You're not separating between one level of holiness to a less level of holiness, or a level of holiness to mundane, because it's exactly the same regarding all laws. So there's no Havdalah. Divrei Hakol. That was I was on the opinion that this is not this is a universal thing. There's no argument regarding this. However, Kisaliket lahatam, when I went up to the land of Israel, Ashkechate Rabbi Yehuda B'Rei Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, I met one of the rabbis. B'Kaman, he says, Rabbi Akiva. This is opinion of Rabbi Akiva, and this is not a universal opinion. We'll see more about this tomorrow, but the bottom line is the Gemara is going to point out that we see from here that when Yom Kippur came out after Shabbat, so that whether you make Havdalah, you don't make Havdalah, he's discussing the issue, but that means it came out after Shabbat. And you just told me that Yom Kippur does not come out after Shabbat. So because you told me you always push it off, you make the calendar that it should not come out that way. So that's the contradiction. We see it does come out on Saturday night, Yom Kippur. Yeah, but these cases, so we'll see. These are before Hillel. Right, it's before Hillel. Yeah, but they should have also been sensitive. Why should they not be sensitive? The rabbis because when they set the Rosh Chodesh, they would have to be sensitive to the same things that Hillel would be sensitive to. Have a great day, everybody. All the best, everybody. Right. We end off with we're in the middle of the contradiction. Exactly. Very good. Ralph, have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Leaving there?
Yeah, why?
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go get dressed. They're coming in.
Yeah, I just got to go to the bathroom and then can't get off the phone.